Welcome back to Retro Rules Vault, where horsepower never dies. I'm Retro Vault 4, your guide to the roaring legends of the past. Today we're diving into the sleek, snarling 1969 Mercury Cougar XR-7, because model cars forgot what muscle means. Buckle up, because this beast got more bite than your morning coffee. Let's get into it. '69 Cougar XR-7 wasn't just another muscle car. It was the muscle car that put on a suit, ordered a martini, and still punched like a prize fighter. The XR-7 badge? It stood for Extra Refinement 7, with the 7 being a nod to the luxury features that set it apart from the base Cougar. In other words, it was Mercury's way of saying, sure, we've got muscle, but we also know which fork to use at dinner. And 1969 brought a big first for Cougar fans. You could finally drop the top. That's right, the first ever Cougar convertible hit the streets, available in both standard and XR7 trims. Now you could enjoy all that big cat power with the wind in your hair and maybe a few bugs in your teeth, call it part of the authentic driving experience. From its hidden headlamps to its walnut-trimmed dash, the XR7 blended style and strength in a way few cars can match. It was the kind of car that could cruise down Main Street like royalty one minute and rip down a back road the next. In the jungle of late 60s muscle, this cat didn't just roar, it purred with class. For 1969, the Mercury Cougar shed some of its straight-edge formality and slipped into something a little more stylish. The once simple straight body sides were sculpted into the popular Coke bottle shape, complete with the sweeping crease that started at the hood and flowed gracefully toward the rear wheels. It was like the Cougar had been to see the tailor, same muscle but now with a slimmer, sleeker cut. The roofline itself saw little change, but the vent windows disappeared, streamlining the profile and giving it a cleaner look. Up front, the Cougar kept its trademark full-width grille, but ditched the old vertical slants in favor of horizontal ones, making it look wider and hungrier, like it was grinning at the competition. Round back, the tail lamps flipped from convex to concave, adding depth and drama to its rear view. The hidden headlamp stayed, thankfully, but the complicated dual vacuum setup was sought for a single central actuator. Simpler, smoother, and less headache-inducing. Backup lights now wrapped around the rear fenders, a subtle but classy touch. To finish it off, rocker panel strips, wheel well moldings, and dual-body pinstripes came standard, giving the Cougar just enough jewelry to remind everyone it wasn't just about muscle, it had style too. Under the hood of the XR7, you got a trio of V8 power plants ready to make the road sing. First up, the 351 cubic inch V8, packing a solid 250 horsepower at 4,600 RPMs. Think of it as the reliable middleweight boxer. Steady, dependable, and ready to throw some serious punches with its cast iron block and 9.5 to 1 compression ratio. It breathes through a 2-barrel carburetor which keeps things smooth and controlled whether you're rocking a manual or an automatic. Step it up a notch, and the 390 cubic inch V8 roars to life with 320 ponies at 4,100 RPM, a muscle car's version of a heavyweight contender. With a slightly bigger bore and stroke and a juicy 10.5 to 1 compression, this engine loves to gulp fuel through its 4-barrel Holley carburetor, delivering power that's as eager as a kid on a sugar rush. Then there's the Big Daddy, the 428 cubic inch Cobra Jet V8. Boasting a ferocious 335 horses and at 5,200 RPM. This beast is like the lion of the pack, intense, powerful, and impossible to ignore. With its high compression and a 4-barrel Holley carburetor, it's the engine that turns your daily drive into a roaring thunderstorm. Cast iron solid and ready to roar, the Cougar's engine options delivered muscle with attitude, because why whisper when you can roar? The '69 Cougar XR-7 didn't just roar under the hood, it knew how to put power down with a drivetrain lineup that could handle anything from casual cruises to full-on drag strip assaults. Starting with the humble but trusty 3-speed manual, it's like the dependable old friend who never lets you down. Simple, effective, and perfect for those who like to feel every shift. It's straightforward, no fuss, just you and the road, like a classic handshake between driver and machine. For the gearheads craving a bit more control, the 4-speed top-loader manual was the real deal, a precision instrument built forward tough like a surgeon's scalpel for shifting. This box made every gear change feel sharp and intentional, letting you wring every ounce of muscle from the big V8 with the finesse of a master pianist tickling the ivories. If you were more of a laid-back cruiser, the 3-speed Cruise-O-Matic Select Shift Automatic, aka the Ford C6, was ready to take the strain. It offers smooth, effortless shifts with the flexibility of a dancer switching partners, allowing you to kick back and enjoy the ride without sacrificing muscle. Whether you prefer to wrestle the wheel or relax and let the machine do the talking, the Cougar's drivetrain had your back, ready to make every drive a statement. Underneath its sleek Coke bottle curves, the '69 Cougar XR-7 rode on a proven foundation. Internally known as the T7 chassis, it was shared with the '67 and up Ford Mustang. Think of it as two siblings with different personalities. The Mustang was the wild one, and the Cougar the more refined older brother who still knew how to throw a punch. Up front, the XR-7 typically rolled with stock springs and control arms, giving it that factory muscle car stance and ride feel. Of course, for those wanting to sharpen its reflexes, coilover upgrades or even a torque arm or suspension swap could turn it from a street cruiser into a corner carving predator. Speaking of the rear, the Cougar's torque arm suspension worked wonders for keeping the car planted, improving stability whether you were laying rubber off the line or gliding down a winding country road. It wasn't just about brute force, it gave the Cougar a touch of finesse, the way a heavyweight boxer might surprise you with a quick, graceful jab. In short, the XR-7's chassis and suspension blended a classic muscle car brawn with just enough sophistication to make it comfortable for daily cruising, while still ready to pounce when you put your foot down. From the outside, the Cougar XR-7 from 1969 looked much like its standard sibling, but step inside and you knew instantly this was no ordinary cat. The XR-7's interior was where Mercury rolled out the red carpet, giving you a cabin that felt more like a gentleman's club than a muscle car cockpit. Front and center sat the rim-blow steering wheel, a quirky yet classy touch that let you honk without moving your hands. The courtesy light group bathed the cabin in a warm glow, while the visual check panel kept you informed on the car's vitals, almost like having a personal pit crew riding shotgun. The left-hand remote-control racing mirror was a nifty convenience, while an electric clock sat proudly on the dash, ticking away like it was counting down to your next quarter-mile run. Deluxe armrests added comfort, and the walnut-toned instrument panel with its tachometer and trip odometer wrapped you in a rich vintage vibe. Leather with the vinyl upholstery and matching vinyl door trim panels gave the XR-7 an upscale flair, while special wheel covers added the polished presentation. In short, it was muscle with manners, like a heavyweight fighter wearing a tailored suit, ready for both the ballroom and the back roads. At the business end of this Cougar XR-7 sat a rock-solid 9-inch rear axle, Ford's legendary workhorse, famous for handling everything from grocery runs to full-blown dragstrip launches. Pair that with the traction-lock differential geared at 3.5, and you had a setup that made sure power went where it was needed most, even when one tire was begging for mercy. It was Cougar's way of saying, "Don't worry, I've got this," every time you floored it. Up front, power steering kept those Coke bottle curves pointing exactly where you wanted them, making maneuvering feel more like guiding a dance partner than wrestling a stubborn bull. Disc brakes added to the stopping power because with big V8 muscle under the hood, you didn't more than wishful thinking to slow down. The F70 by 14 polyglass tires completed the package, putting just enough rubber on the road to make you feel planted without sacrificing that vintage driving feel. They weren't just tires, they were the Cougar's paws, clawing into the pavement with every launch. All told, this combination made the XR-7 as sure-footed as it was stylish, equally happy cruising down Main Street or digging in for a hard run on an open stretch of highway. This muscle-bound cat wasn't just a car. It was a statement in sheet metal and chrome, and its dimensions told the story. Stretching 193.8 inches from nose to tail, it had the kind of presence that could cast a shadow over lesser rides at the stoplight. At 75 inches wide, it planted itself confidently on the road, broad shoulders ready to muscle through the wind. Standing 51.5 inches tall, the Cougar had that low, predatory stance, crouched like it was ready to pounce. The 111-inch wheelbase gave it the stability of a seasoned tightrope walker, keeping things smooth whether you were cruising the boulevard or eating up miles on the highway. Curb weight came in around 3,428 pounds, enough to give it some heft for that planted muscle car feel, but not so heavy it couldn't leap forward when you gave it to the beans. Think of it as the perfect blend between a heavyweight brawler and a nimble street fighter. All these measurements added up to a machine that looked fast even when parked. The XR-7 didn't just fit in a parking spot. It owned it, daring anything on four wheels to challenge its blend of elegance, muscle, and road-commanding stance. The Mercury Cougar XR-7 in 1969 had plenty of strengths that made it a standout in the muscle car jungle. For starters, it offered a perfect blend of performance and refinement, packing V8 grunt under the hood while wrapping you in leather-trimmed comfort inside. It had the looks to match its bite, with elegant Coke bottle curves and hidden headlamps giving it a sense of mystery like a predator watching from the shadows. The Cobra Jet option turned into a straight-line missile, while the smooth ride and upscale interior made it just as happy on a Sunday cruise as on a Friday night run. But like any big cat, it had its own quirks. The Cougar's weight meant it wasn't the most nimble through the tight corners, more of a sprinter than a gymnast. Fuel economy? Let's just say it drank with the enthusiasm of a sailor on shore leave. And while the luxury touches were great, they had a cost, meaning it wasn't the cheapest muscle option on the lot. Still, for drivers who wanted Mustang performance with a dash of class, the XR7 was hard to beat. It was proof you could have muscle without giving up manners, like James Bond showing up to a drag race in a tux. The 1969 Mercury Cougar XR-7 was more than just another face in the muscle car crowd. It was a suave gentleman who could outdance you at the ballroom and then beat you off the line of the drag strip. It blended the raw power of Ford's V8 lineup with the comfort and style of a luxury coupe, giving drivers the best of both worlds. From its sleek Coke bottle curves to its plush, leather-trimmed interior, it was a car that knew how to make an entrance and leave in a cloud of burnt rubber. Sure, it wasn't the lightest cat in the jungle, and its thirst for fuel was, well, let's just say it could empty a pump before you finish your coffee. But it made up for it with charisma, muscle, and a road presence that's still turning heads over 50 years later. So here's a question for you. If you had the keys to a 69 Cougar XR7, would you baby it as a showpiece or unleash it on the open road? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear how you tame this classic beast. Until next time, keep it loud, keep it classic, and never let the roar fade away.